we are once again talking about the gift that keeps on giving. That gift that keeps on giving is Snow White. I put it to the vote on my channel and I asked you if I should go to see the film or not. And you voted yes, I should go and see it. So thank you. And to be fair, I have discussed this since the very beginning of this channel. This channel is just over a year old, well over a year old now, getting close to 2 years old. And even though at one point I was adamant that I was never going to see it, I thought it was probably a good idea to put it to the vote because I have talked about it so much on this channel. I have mixed opinions on this film, but I will get into that a little bit later on. I'm going to start out by saying that I spoke to my friend who also went to see this the other day. And this friend is someone who doesn't actually listen to anything that goes on around him within the entertainment world. He doesn't listen to interviews or anything like that. So he's not aware of anything that's gone on with the controversy surrounding this film. He just sees things as black and white, and he'll go and see something if he wants to. So I asked him if he enjoyed it. He said it was good and he was planning to take a friend to see it. I then asked him if it was a direct remake of the original 1937 classic, and he said that Rachel Zegler was dressed as Snow White and the dwarves had the same names, and he left it at that. So read into that what you will, but he told me, and I know my friend very well. All I needed to know from then on was that this story that we were going to get was not going to be a Disney Snow White. It told me that we were going to perhaps get a little bit, but to expect something completely different from the 1937 movie. And boy, oh boy, did we get just that. Hello, welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters, not by myself. Before we get cracking with this review, please like, share, subscribe, switch on the notification bells so you know I am releasing another video. Thank you to everyone who has joined me already. I cannot run this channel without you. If you've not been to this channel before, I'll just explain to you that when I look at people within the entertainment industry and discuss the woke things that they say, I treat that as something completely separate from the work that they have done. So when I do a review, I will do the review in the fairest way that I possibly can. I will also state that if you like Snow White as a film, this version, it's fine. I am not here to tell you what to like, what not to like, and what to watch and not what to watch, even if I do recommend something. It's up to you if you want to watch it. People think that's me brown-nosing, but this is the way that I just try and keep things as fair as possible, and you'll see that in any other review that I do as well. This film has good points, it has bad points, but before I get to those, let's talk about the box office just very quickly. I have seen the reports for its domestic box office and its global box office were definitely in the box office bomb territory. Domestically, it made $43 million, which put it above Mufasa, The Lion King, and underneath Dumbo. And I expected it naturally to do better globally because obviously we don't hear so much globally about what Rachel may be saying and things like that. It did $87 million at the weekend globally. A lot of this, I think, is because obviously there was no major push. It kept going in for reshoots and the fanfare was just really mediocre overall. I heard rumours that the test screenings were not going according to plan, and I know a lot of people aren't too keen on Rachel Zegler either. Disney had a really good opportunity with this film to do a remake, a solid remake of the 1937 animated classic, the one that saved Disney to begin with when it was in dire need of saving. Walt put everything into his production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was a risk that he was willing to take, and it paid off. This remake certainly isn't what I would deem to be a Snow White story. It has Snow White in it, and it has the dwarves in it, much like what my friend said. And it has some key elements of the original movie, but other than that, not much else, unfortunately. Clearly, other people also thought the same because we had two people walk out within the first 20 minutes, never to return. I've seen a lot of films at the cinema, good and bad, but I have never seen that in my entire life. I'll start out by saying that the start of the film is pretty slow. They decided to put the Snow White backstory in at the very beginning. They had to add this whole entire backstory to the movie because they cast a Polish Latina in the role, and obviously she does not meet the description in the Brothers Grimm tale. She does not have skin as white as snow. Now, obviously, I'm not going to focus on that, but they decided that her version of Snow White was going to be named after a snowstorm because that was what she was born in. This backstory padded it a little bit too much. It adds in the fearless, brave, and true aspects to her character that were never there in the original. For the most part, I don't mind backstories being added into these remakes, so long as it doesn't change too much in the story within itself and it's not too long. These were a little bit too long. With regards to this backstory, though, it does change one of the key features and aspects of the character of Snow White. It does, however, also add more of a background and I think more context to the character of the Queen. They gave her magical powers, and I don't mind that actually. I think that does fit the character because we obviously see her change her appearance in the 1937 movie, and she also has a magic mirror, so it made sense. So I was fine with that. They obviously have to make the father disappear as well, which they do, but they don't really give much more of an explanation as to why he disappeared and as to how he actually dies. It just turns out that he died. I feel like that in the original script that they probably did have that, but then because they did rewrites, I felt like they cut it. It was a storyline that just didn't go anywhere, and that's not the first time that it happens in the film. However, I'll get to some of those other points much later. They also got rid of Someday My Prince Will Come and replaced it with the song Waiting on a Wish. This is because they were not going to be doing the song Someday My Prince Will Come because the prince was cut from the movie altogether. He's not there. However, Andrew Burnett, great dude, thankfully survived his potential cutting that Rachel had predicted. His character Jonathan remains in the movie and he is the love interest. I've seen people saying that they want, Waiting on the Wish to be the next version of Let It Go, and I can truly say it will never replace Let It Go. Let It Go is significantly a much more impressive song. And I'm saying that, and I don't like Idina Menzel as a singer. I like her as an actress, but just not as a singer. I think Rachel is better at singing than Idina Menzel, particularly in terms of technical aspects. So, whilst we're on the subject of Rachel, let's talk about her because I'm going to call it right now. Setting the appearance aside, performance-wise, she was a total miscast. She wasn't Snow White. Sorry. But if you liked her as Snow White, that's fine. This is just my opinion. Her singing, great. I don't have an issue with that. I also didn't have an issue with her performance in West Side Story either, just so you know. Snow White is, well, the Disney version of the character is delicate. She is dainty. She is feminine. She is extremely kind, very homely, a strong, independent woman in her own right who can cook and clean and do things. Something that a man, in many respects, would look for in a woman. And of course, in the film, she is 14 years old. She is essentially a child, but she holds those aspects. In the writing for this version of Snow White, They give her the independent aspect to the character. They try to make her kind, and they try to go for the modern day, strong, independent, feminine type of character. And it didn't work for the time setting because obviously this is a period piece. It didn't fit. It was kind of juxtaposition. Now, Rachel, in some respects, obviously tries to do this, but I feel like there's aspects of cockiness and smugness behind it. Not all the time, just occasionally it came through. And I don't know if that's because she was excited because she knew she was changing the role of Snow White and she was proud of changing that character. I don't know if it's because of that, but I wondered if it might have been. This sounds very weird, but she also made some very strange facial expressions. I felt like she just wasn't connecting with what she was given well enough. Her facial expressions did not always match the words that were coming out of her mouth. Now, obviously, some of this will be on Rachel, and some of this will be on the director, and some of this will be on the script. There didn't seem to be any heightened moments of tension. Acting has different states of tension in it, and Rachel did not do that. Performance didn't feel energetic. I don't know if this was because she was trying to do a version of Dainty. I don't know. Or what she thought Dainty would mean in this type of feminism. It just didn't come across as Snow White. I think in this case with the film, the character is Snow White in name only. Much like the dwarves. The dwarves are just dwarves in name only. Now, I will be fair, though, to the dwarves. They were probably some better aspects of this film. I know you probably were not expecting me to say that, but truly and honestly, they were. There were some things that let them down, but I'll talk about that in a moment. We wait quite a while to meet the dwarves in the film, and I think they should have been introduced earlier. This is because we meet Jonathan first. Well, like in the film original movie, we also meet the prince first, so it would make sense that we meet Jonathan first, but there's this whole expanded scene, and he is one of the bandit characters as well. However, once we see the dwarves, the story picks up a little bit. They are remastered. They remastered the Hi Ho song as well, and they made that longer. And do you know what? I really liked that. I didn't think I would say that. I really like the new version of Hi Ho. It fitted absolutely fine within the context of the film itself. It introduces the characters in a fun way, and they remain fun throughout. However, what lets them down is the fact that they didn't cast little people. It's a live action film. You've got the chance to give 7 little people actors a job, and you didn't. The CGI for them was not really great at all. In many respects, it was a little bit creepy. It was almost like they had put the motion capture dots onto the actor's face. Martin Kleber was his name. That is his name, isn't it? It was like they were trying to make him look realistic, but they were not realistic. It was very bizarre to look at. And if you're going to go into that much trouble with CGI, then you could have just cast little people for it instead. It just didn't make sense to me at all. However, Martin Kleber does do a fantastic job with making all of the voices very different. Very different indeed. One thing that I really do not like about them, in addition to the CGI, is the fact that they really changed the character of Dopey. Dopey is fun, he is loving, he is caring, and he is funny in the 1937 classic. They didn't do much funny with Dopey in this. They actually made him a very sad character who was afraid to speak. Dopey, in my opinion, was never that. And then he starts talking towards the end. I really didn't like that at all. I really like the fact that Dopey is mute. So, yes, unfortunately, they did not do a great job with the characterization of Dopey, unfortunately. And why are the dwarves cleaning their own house? Snow White is supposed to clean their house. The reason why she cleans the house is because she is frightened. She has run away. She is hiding from her stepmother, the evil queen, and in return for letting her stay, she cooks and she cleans for them. She can't pay them, so she does the next best thing that she is good at and that she can do, and she does it out of the kindness of her own heart. In this, she don't do that. The animals take her to the house. By the way, the animals look really bad. The eyes actually are the worst part of the animals. They look really bad. Anyway, the animals take her to the house, and she walks up the stairs and she falls asleep. Then the next morning, the dwarves have a fight and make a house the mess. Dopey gets upset and storms out. Snow White teaches him how to whistle, and they go back inside, and she makes them clean up the house whilst they sing Whistle While You Work, and she does absolutely nothing. Not very fitting within the character of Snow White, is it, when Snow White does things like that? I would have preferred it if they had done like the original in this case. So she cleans the house for them, thinking that they are children. Then she falls asleep. Then we cut to the dwarves, and then she makes them dinner once they have agreed to let her stay, and then she sends them outside to go and wash themselves ready for dinner. And we could have had that song right there and then. Now, it's very clear in this film that the dwarves adore Snow White, much like they do in the original. One of my most major criticisms about the film is that when Snow White bites the apple, she passes out on the floor and the dwarves find her. They do not fashion her a coffin made of glass. They put her on a stone rock. First of all, she is a princess. Second of all, they are miners and they can probably craft things. Just because you put her on a rock does not make her a strong woman. Other than that, the dwarves don't really go anywhere. You get the sense that they were supposed to have taken on the castle at the end, but that just doesn't seem to have appeared at all. It seems to have evaporated into non-existence. You just see them standing in front of the door. Anyway, back to the coffin, or the lack thereof of a coffin. Rachel states that Snow White wasn't going to be saved by the prince. However, she still needed to be saved by the man because she still bites the poison apple and she still needs love's first kiss. So that storyline that they pretty much said that they weren't going to do, they had to do, whether it was cut originally and they had to add it back in because of all the controversies, I don't know, but it had to be done in order to move the story along. Otherwise, it would have just ended right there. I remember I was sat in the theatre wondering, well, this isn't necessarily going to be the love story, is it? Because she is the one that is going to save the kingdom, but how is she going to save the kingdom when it's the first kiss that still needs to break the spell? It's also not the first time that he saves her in the film. He also saves her from being shot with an arrow. He almost dies because of it. We were led to believe, or we were given the impression, that Snow White was going to be the one that saves everyone because she was fearless, brave, and true. But we didn't really get that at all within the character itself. I think we should have probably had the prince. The reason why I say that is because there's no reason why a prince can't save a princess. He doesn't stalk her in the 1937 classic. He's just not a very big character in it. They put Jonathan in it, but other than taking an arrow for her and reviving her from her stupor, he gets captured twice, and he isn't much use after that. In fact, the bandits altogether really were not that much of a use either. So the bandits were the characters that everyone thought had replaced the dwarves. They were still in the film, however, they were not prominent. The screen time was very, very limited. I feel like there was supposed to have been some kind of siege on the castle at the end, and all of it just disappeared. They don't have many lines. In fact, they barely do anything at all other than stop Snow White from being caught by the Queen's Guard and do some dancing with the dwarves. We're led to believe that there's some kind of Robin Hood type of characters where they steal from the rich and give to the poor, all in the name of the king. Other than one scene, we don't see that at all. I think if they were going to really roll with the bandits. We should have seen them a lot more. I think the bandits should have either been cut altogether or given some screen time, but I think with the amount of complaints and the amount of controversy behind all of this, what we received was not prominent. They got cut. I don't really think the bandits serve anything to the plot at all, or at least the plot that we got in the end. The plot that we got in the end was very clunky. I think part of this is because the film underwent numerous rewrites and reshoots. Now, this would have been because of the feedback from the test screenings and then listening to audiences as well and reacting to what Rachel has said. Dotted all the way throughout were sudden changes in either tempo or what felt like something had been moved around on purpose, and then there were disappearing storylines. The ending that we got, it felt like it wasn't the ending we were supposed to get. When they stormed the castle, so you see them sneaking in, and you think there's going to be some kind of big battle to defeat the queen, but Snow White walks in and uses kindness and her memories to get the queen to retreat. Snow White chooses kindness and memories over violence. It wasn't necessarily anticlimactic, it was just with how it was all built up and with what people were saying, it felt like it should have been more on the story leading up to it. I felt like it should have happened, but it didn't. However, it did lead to one of my favourite moments with the CGI. Now, I like the magic mirror in this story. The way that they did the demise of the queen was very different from the animated classic. But I was fine with it. I didn't mind this change. The queen smashes the mirror after asking it a question, and she gets turned into this weird black stone and disintegrates and gets sucked into the mirror, and then the mirror seals itself back up and she's gone. I think that was some of the better use of the CGI with what they did there. And the mirror had some cool CGI and effects going on around it. The rest of the CGI wasn't that great. There was a bit that made me think of Tangled actually in this. I wondered if they were basing it off of this for the love that was developing between Snow White and Jonathan, trying to emulate the scene in the river in Tangled. I don't know. The Evil Queen. Now, I've not really spoken about the Evil Queen yet. I heard some people saying that they thought Gal Gadot was really wooden. I would be inclined to strongly disagree with that. I sometimes wonder if people think that someone is wooden because the voice connection sounds off. Gal is not native in English, so she's going to have an accent, and her cadences and her rhythms will be different from ours with her English, which can give you an illusion that she is not connecting to the language or that she may seem a bit more wooden. But in actual reality, I don't think she was wooden. I thought she was pretty well cast as the queen. I really liked her song. She really surprised me with that. She's not the best singer, but she really did surprise me. And she looked like she had the time of her life doing it. In actual fact, she looked like she enjoyed filming the entire film. The best thing about an evil character is you already have an elevated status, so you can work off that. Whereas if you come in with a character like Snow White, that's not as easy to do. Gal's reactions are right with her facial expressions, and they match exactly what she's saying, and I really liked her last scene. I thought she did a really good job in this film. The ending that we see when the kingdom goes back to normal, Dopey is narrating, didn't like that bit. Overall, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was mid at best. I think out of all the live actions I've seen, for me, this is the weakest one of them all. I understand why people are not happy with it. It's definitely not what I expected. I think they kept the key points in the film to say that they had done them so that we wouldn't scream and shout and kick and whatever about it. So then they can do their strong, independent, sexist politics, I guess you could say. Unfortunately, because of that, they missed the original's charm, femininity, strength, and kindness that it has. The remake does not emulate it onto the screen as well as it could have done, or as well as any remakes of any other films have done. They padded it out way too much. They've got plot lines that just go absolutely nowhere. The script is very clunky. The CGI is very creepy for most of the time that we see the dwarves, and the animals, well, they're just weird. I think the script and the technicalities behind this film is really what lets it down the most. And whilst it does have its good points, this is not what I would call a fair adaptation of the original 1937 classic. It gets a 5 out of 10 from me. Let me know what you think. Chat about it, don't shout about it. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, switch on the notification bells so you know I'm releasing another video. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Bye bye.